So these fears that are here, these mental anxieties in the Ajna, really help alert us to the possibility that maybe we are letting too much outside influence dominate our thinking and kind of getting in the way of our own awareness of how things are. So we're going to go through the gates and the associated fears. Human design reveals who you are energetically and who you came here to be. I'm Dana, human design specialist.
And I'm Haley, the human design newbie. Listen in as we explore how leaning into your authentic self is your ultimate path to success. Welcome to the Human Design Hive podcast. Let's get into it.
Hello, and welcome back. We are moving on here with part 2 of the Ajna Center. If you want some background information into the Ajna and the defined and undefined and open Ajna Center, how it all works, you can go back to the previous episode, get the overview. But now we're going to move on into the gates of the Ajna Center. So enjoy part 2. Okay. All right. So as we said, it's awareness center. And when we did the spleen, we use as awareness center. It has certain fears that are associated with it. Same applies here. These are mental anxieties, fears in the Ajna Center. And as I looked over my notes, I realized I don't think we attached those awareness fears in the solar plexus. I don't remember talking about that.
No, we didn't talk about fears necessarily. We did talk about like shadow sides or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that could be another episode. We can talk about the fears. So like I said, it's expressed as a mental anxiety of like not knowing something or the fear of being misunderstood. But whether you're defined or undefined in the Ajna, there's still these fears that are going to be associated with these gates. But if you're undefined, it could be even more intense and magnified in the undefined Ajna. Take a drink of water now. So these fears that are here, these mental anxieties in the Ajna, really help alert us to the possibility that maybe we are letting too much outside influence dominate our thinking and kind of getting in the way of our own awareness of how things are. So we're going to go through the gates and the associated fears. So gate 47 up at the top is oppression in the I Ching, and it's the gate of realization. And in quantum human design, it's mindset. And so it's an interesting fear. It's the fear of futility. And so it says making sense of the confusion. It's mental anxiety that life is oppressive and futile and that you cannot make sense of the confusion.
Oh, good.
Well, you think about it, it's that abstract thinking, right? Like it's just, there's just too much confusion. It doesn't make sense. And so these are people who are always looking to understand life by relating it to their own personal experience, which makes sense, right? Because that's what that channel and that circuitry is about, is experience, sensing. It's the sensing circuit. You look like you're going to say something.
Well, I maybe was going to say how you guys always say I make every conversation about myself.
I have so that channel. You always bring it back to you, don't you? That's your channel, isn't it? Well, it helps you make sense of everything. You're relating it to your own experience, or maybe our experiences, or your part in the experience. But yeah, well, that makes sense now, right? Doesn't it? Nice insight.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So yeah, so it says 64 is the gate that it connects to in the mind. So this is the 64 is who remembers all this disorganized collection of information. And the 47 is the editor, basically, that attempts to take that information, put it together into a meaningful piece or experience, right? And again, as we said, as this information comes in, you might not have the full picture all at once, because that is dealing in these chunks of information, usually just flashes of things. so you might not always have that full picture. And so, you maybe trying to sort through all the collection of memories, images, whatever, how it is you're chunking this information together. And so you might not have all the details. And so you might try to make a decision too soon. Then your mind keeps changing because your perception will keep changing as you allow more information to kind of drop in, right?
Mhm.
So the more you try to force it, the more complicated it can feel to reassemble all that makes sense, which is pretty much what you described earlier. With your brother, you're trying to force it. You're like, I got it. No, it's there. Oh no, it's not there yet.
No, and then it just comes out a jumbled mess.
But so it just takes a little more patience, to allow it to kind of, and then if you have all the pieces, it can be quite inspiring.
Fire.
Yeah. So it is hard to wait though, because there's pressure being put on you from the head. There's a lot of pressure there to relieve that pressure. Wants to just like, well, this is what it means. Well, no, that's not. Well, maybe it's this. Well, no, it's not. Yeah. Yeah. So you kind of gotta wait to be asked sometimes. So the whole channel here, if you have the whole channel, it is more of a storytelling mind, because right, you love a story. Because it's this wanting to break down the experience and make sense of it. And so it's relating to your experience. And so it is that story telling, because usually in that channel, it is the energy of, like we said, letting things drop in and then kind of mulling it over, turning it over. What did it mean? What did it mean? What did it mean? Until you find meaning in your story. So, and why it happened in the first place.
And in my stories, I want to make sure I give all of the details, even if they're not all necessarily relevant.
Well, maybe that's just because you're seeing all these little detailed pieces and you're just like, this has got to be important, right?
And then I have like a 12-minute story.
Yeah. Well, here we are. I'm doing this. You're not even in charge. Okay. Gate 24 there in the middle is the returned, it's called. And it's the gate of rationalization. And then quantum human design, blessings. So the 61, if you remember, this is in that knowing channel. This is starting the knowing circuitry. So it's the gate of rationalization. So the fear here is the fear of ignorance. And so there's this knowingness here, knowing the answer in like a pulse, because this mutative energy is also like a pulse. It's there, it's not. And there's this mental anxiety that you'll never know the answer and inspiration will never come, and that you won't be able to explain your knowingness. Which is true, because there's not really, with the other ones, there's a mulling over, there's things coming, but a lot of this here is just like flash. So these are people who tend to go over and over things, trying to rationalize them, make sense of them.
Does Presley have this channel?
That is his channel, yeah.
Okay.
That connects his head. Yeah, his head and his Ajna.
I remembered he had the 61.
Yeah.
But I didn't know his channel.
Yeah, so this gate screens all the thoughts that come through the 61 and select what it deems to be useful and potentially inspiring. And it can be, and once it's made clear, it can have a lot of impact. I mean, individual circuitry is designed to have a lot of impact on those around them. These are very
kind of relevant, but so the other day Presley he'd already purchased a travel backpack, and then it was like back ordered or something, and then he was like also looking at like a Yeti backpack, very similar. And I was trying to get him, because he's like, well, should I just cancel that other one and go for the Yeti one? And I was like, I was trying to get him to answer with his sacral. So I like asked him one question. I was like, don't answer with words. Don't think about it. He's like, how else am I supposed to answer it? I was like, ugh.
So what did you say?
I think I said like, I don't remember what I said. I was washing dishes.
Mhm.
but he wasn't cooperating, so I think I just kind of dropped it. I wasn't
Well,
sure if my question was necessarily right either. I was trying to
yeah.
figure out the right questioning.
Deciding between the backpacks?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a sacral question. Sure. I mean, you would just be like, do you like this one? Yes or no. Do you like
I
that
think
one?
that's
Yes or
how
no.
I asked it, but he's like because he is always, well, this and this, but this, or he's always like, the only thing I'm afraid of is this, or that's how he always has his statements like that.
Well, for me, that sounds like he's trying to make his decisions from his mind because, as you said,
100%.
it's this or that. And then he's second guessing the answer that he gets
Hmm.
because he's out of touch with what a different kind of awareness, to lock into there to know what's right. Because um, he has lots of good instincts, very intuitive for sure. He just doesn't recognize it as that. But
Hmm.
there's definitely things that he doesn't even have to think twice about. He just knows what the right
Hmm.
answer is, and
He's
that's
my
more,
Google half the time.
yeah, and that's more of his just his body awareness of like knowing what feels right. That's his sacral a lot of
Hmm.
time. But anyway, so we could also call this our significant other podcast where we just talk about the people in our life.
Well,
Anyway, so these are also people with this gate of rationalization that need to hear things over and over again sometimes before they make sense, before they integrate it. They can worry a lot and may not let go of a worry until it's resolved. Sometimes, this is the energy of the people that kind of aha in the dropping in that we were talking about, the
hmm,
it finally makes sense, or you can finally make the connections. You don't know when it's going to happen, but then it just can happen. And that usually
light bulb
happens.
moment.
Yeah. We were talking about last week in the shower, when the mind is more
Hmm.
calm in the
Right.
middle of the night, when you least expect it. A lot of times that's when it's come. You can't force it. So basically, to use this energy to their advantage, to have that space to kind of go over things, don't get stuck there, but kind of
Hmm.
come back to it, mull the problem over, and the knowingness will just drop in eventually. And then but there is a lot of fear here of this mental anxiety, this fear of ignorance, that they'll not really know for certain, or they won't be able to explain their knowingness. And
Hmm.
it can trigger some anxiety there. I can tell you that for sure. I don't have that gate, but further on down I certainly do. Anyway, so moving over to gate 4, which is youthful folly,
Oh.
gate of formulation, and also quantum as the gate of possibility.
Oh.
And so the fear associated here is the fear of chaos. I mean, who's not
Oh.
afraid of chaos?
I
Who's
don't
like,
like chaos.
I don't know, maybe there are people that are like, I love the chaos. I know there are. There definitely is. So this is trying to formulating a logical answer, and it's the mental anxiety that you will never find order in your life and that you will always be in chaos,
Oh
and it's the
God.
need to find and give answers. So I can raise my hand and attest to all that. My name is Dana and I have gate 4. So this is about questions that are fueled by doubt about the future because it's logical. Remember, logical is
Hmm.
looking forward of what could happen or what can happen or what. And so it tries to come up with logical answers of what to expect. And these answers are only potential, which then must be tested and substantiated, proven.
Hmm.
So this is the hypothesis, basically.
Hmm.
And as we move over, we're going to go down to the 17. You'll so clearly see how they relate. But this is the question starts the doubt in the 63, the doubt like of can you prove it? And then the 4 is like, well, yes, it's this. This is the answer, right?
Hmm.
That's what it does. But it's just this like need to have an answer. So it just comes up with an answer. Doesn't mean it's the answer, it's an answer. It's a possibility. Yeah,
Youthful
so
folly.
yeah, it is. These are people who use their mental awareness and their intelligence to also judge what they think looks suspicious. And they always have a need for questions to resolve. So it's a very thinking mind here.
Hmm.
Um with this fear, this mental anxiety that comes with this is when their minds don't understand something. They don't have an answer. Remember that 63 is doubt, right? So this one's always trying to come up with an answer to solve, to get rid of that pressure.
Yeah. I don't like not
Yeah.
understanding things.
Yeah. If you don't have that 63, you could be someone who has a potential answer for every problem and may spend a lot of time looking for the next inspirational question to answer or become anxious that your life is, like I said, always going to be in chaos. It's just driven by this need to answer questions.
I need to
So,
answer all of the questions.
dude, I mean, can we just take a moment here and experience that with like the open head and all you defined heads in the room and me trying to like come up with an answer for everything, trying to read all your minds and like know what to say to everybody? Yeah. So the challenge here is to learn to embrace that, these ideas are just possibilities, not answers, and to just kind of let that possibility stir the imagination, which then maybe it's that daydreaming, allow it to be more of that to help, calibrate the heart basically to see, what the possibilities are. And it's also about teaching us that waiting to see which possibility can actually manifest and to not worry about if things aren't happening immediately, but just kind of, again, resting in this field of possibility and not trying to make every answer a reality. Makes sense. Okay, so moving on, gate 11. So gate 11 is called peace. So nice. It's like one of the most
Ease?
normal, yeah, one of the most normal names. It's the
It
gate of
is.
ideas, and in
Okay.
quantum human design, it's the conceptualist. And so the fear here is the fear of darkness, of having new ideas to share. And it's this mental anxiety about not having new or stimulating ideas to think about or learn, and anxiety about sharing and manifesting your ideas. And so this one is always one of the easier ones for me to latch onto to remember when I was first learning about all this stuff, that gate 11 is the gate of ideas. And people who have this gate are full of ideas,
Mm-hmm.
full of them. The problem is, not all these ideas are intended, most of them aren't intended for them. They're literally receiving the ideas and can have lots of ideas, but they aren't necessarily meant to act on any or most of them. They're meant to be shared. So they love the stimulation of new ideas, and they love stimulating others with their ideas. And it it takes that energy from the 6447, because the circuitry, when it comes down, the first part, so the abstract circuitry there, sensing circuitry, comes down on the left side there, and then it hops over through the ajna over to the 11, to the other side of the ajna. And what this does is it takes all the pieces that were gathered in that 6447 channel and kind of tries to put them into a specific shape. And it's these ideas. So remember, this is still part of that collective circuitry. So it is a part of that storytelling process still, because it's like, well, you had this formalization of a thought, and then it has these ideas to share with other people. And it's in the mental process here where you sort through all that information of the experience and sort it out, what has been remembered, the ups and downs and the all in between. And if you have this gate, you may be prone to, when you're remembering, be thinking more of the positive part of the experience than anything else and kind of leave the rest of it out.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're formulating beliefs about the experience of what it really meant, what happened. If you would then also have the 56, then this is the gate. This channel is a storytelling channel, because it takes all those experiences and then tries to communicate what it meant, what the experience meant. Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And so you can be under pressure to tell these stories, but you definitely need to, again, it's not motorized. You have to wait for the right for the right timing. One good piece of advice I tell people with gate 11, since there are so many ideas and this pressure to like act on them, because they're like, well, I have so many great ideas, how do I know which one to, is get a journal that you could it could be just a little one, it could be a bigger one, but you could create it as your idea journal. And every idea that you get that like really, it's like, this is a great idea, this is $1 million idea, well, it might not be your $1 million idea. And so just kind of collect them in almost like a sacred container of sorts, where they have a place to rest and reside until the right time for them to be shared. Because especially depending on also like what your profile is, your profile line, you might be also a line 4 and have this gate that your connections with people would also help enhance these ideas. You'd probably be somebody who's always like, oh, I've got an idea for you, I've got one for you, I've got, you could be an idea machine. But so if you get them out of your head and onto paper or on your laptop or wherever you want to collect your ideas, it makes room for more ideas, but also it doesn't keep you in that mental process of always trying to decide which idea is the right idea. If you follow your strategy and authority, you'll know when the right idea is for you, because it'll show up. You'll get some confirmation on that. Okay, so moving over to gate 43, which is called breakthrough, gate of insight. And it's also called insight in quantum human design. This carries the fear of rejection. And this is having a unique perspective and mental anxiety that your ideas are too weird and will be rejected. And it's the need to make sense to others. Again, this is in that individual circuitry, that mutative energy. We went through the 61, 24.
24.
That knowingness drops in. It's a unique perspective. You have a new way of looking at things, and it's usually a more creative way of looking at things. And these people can have a gift for expressing their thoughts in a more unique, creative way. And so it takes that rationalized truth and puts its unique perspective on it, and then makes it ready to be converted into speech in the 23, which we're going to do the throat next week. So basically it's taking all this knowingness and putting your spin on it and getting it ready to be brought out into the world through language. But they have to wait for the right time, because this is the one that, we've talked about many times, because it's kind of dominant in my family. The whole channel is that genius to freak channel, which is that unique perspective and having the ability to communicate it through the 23, but only when the timing is right. Because if people ain't ready to hear it, they're not going to hear it.
Then you will come off as freak.
Yeah, weird. But likewise, the perspective that someone with this gate that waits for the right time and is asked for it and can give their knowingness, their ideas, can just completely transform how people think, because it's something new and it's something different. And it's not logical. It's just, it's just coming from somewhere, from Gus.
So how prominent is it in our family? I have it. You have it.
Ian has
I have
it.
43.
My mom had it. I think Nancy has it. Lakeland is not technically, she's our niece, but she's not our side of the family. She has it. But Ian and I have the full channel. I think my mom had the full channel too. what I've seen so far. I can't remember other people in the family. I
Mhm.
think your dad has it too. Not the full channel, but I think he just has the 43 activation.
I thought he was completely open though.
No, completely open head. He does
Mm.
have activations in the ajna.
Yeah, because you guys, where you have activation is pretty identical, right?
No, where we have openness. We have
Uh,
the same, we have the completely open
right.
head, will, and root center. Yeah,
Head.
he has the 43 as well. Says people with the 43 are minds that really only know what they're interested in and not necessarily interested in what others know. Which, yes and no. I can see that for myself. Yes and no. And it can also uh, says it can be difficult to teach these people anything as they have to know everything for themselves. You know, I can mull that around in my brain. I mean, I would say, yeah, I do. I would definitely listen to a teaching, but I do try to learn it myself. Like, I'll listen, I guess, in a
Mhm.
way, but I do have to try and like, I want to figure it out for myself as well. Um, could also be my line one, just wants to know more and go deeper.
Mhm. I can
But
see it like if it's something I already feel like I know,
mhm,
like I don't want someone
you're
trying
not
to
listening.
teach me. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, no,
I'm like,
I
I already
got.
know this. I don't want
Yeah. But again, so like in the other thing, this is
to.
mutative thinking. It comes in pulses. The insights come through. You can be not knowing and then knowing, and then this is also knowing this is not backed up by facts, and so it can take a lot of courage to to stand behind your insights and try to explain them because they may seem weird and different and they're new because it's
Mhm.
mutative circuitry and outside the norm. And so it can also, with this gate says, it can be difficult for you to listen and really hear others sometimes, which is not really a fault. It's really protecting this like individual circuitry. It's protecting you from undue influence.
Mhm.
So because you're meant to bring forth new ideas, right? And so that's yeah. So the fear of rejection here is really wondering, you know, if you'll be able to explain yourself and your ideas. And I think I have talked to people before who've been helping me with stuff. That is definitely one of my biggest things that hold me back is of my throat. A 23 is like, no, don't say it. No, I'm just kidding. Is one of my biggest things is being misunderstood, of sharing what I have to say and people misconstruing what I say or thinking it doesn't come from a genuine place, or they're going to put their spin on it that, like, you know, if they think I'm too opinionated, or, you know, that it's not sincere, or they just don't understand me whatsoever. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, that is like something that definitely keeps me from expressing a lot of what goes on in this head. Sometimes I literally, it's not the right time for it, which I've
Mhm.
learned over the years, much more in the last couple years. But yeah. How's your experience? Do you have any experience of that?
My probably one of my biggest things is I don't want to look stupid.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably inherent in most of us
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I mean, because there's a lot of that in that head energy of not, you know, fear of looking stupid comes from a lot of things, but, you know, maybe it is, I don't understand the way it's supposed to be or how it's supposed to be done, or
Mhm.
other people know more than I do, or
Oh, I had all of those feelings in
yeah.
the one class in college
Mm-hmm.
that I cried in, and it was a
Mm.
calculus class. Because I was
Oh,
like, I do not understand. And he just kept teaching, and I was like, I do not understand this. And I was like,
you just
keep it
described
together.
you just described like the last 2 years of high school for me and the first year of college math classes. I think I told y'all I couldn't even get out of algebra. My brain did not want to think that way. It did not like it. Um, Yeah, math made me feel stupid. I didn't like that either.
I mean, that was also the highest math class I ever took, but
Yeah.
that was the only time math was ever like I don't understand.
Ugh.
But it's the only class I've ever cried in,
Hmm.
and I sat front row.
Well, at least everybody could see you cry. They're all behind you. I'll be fine. I'm fine. I'm not crying.
Trying to
You're
take
crying.
notes, keeping it together.
Tear-stained notes. Oh. All right. So if you have that gate, you just got to kind of trust your knowing, let your strategy and authority guide you. When there's the right time, just, share your ideas when it's asked, usually.
Mhm,
But, okay. Gate 17 is
mhm.
called following, and it's the gate of opinion. And in quantum human design, it's anticipation. So the
Oh,
fear here is the fear of challenge, and it's having opinions based on facts and fear that your opinions will be challenged so you don't share them, and the need to have the details to back up the opinions.
mhm.
So, as we said just a not so short time ago, gate 4, youthful folly has I have an idea. This is an answer, right?
Mhm.
And then so it's the start of, okay, the question, what if, the answer, and then over here to opinions, because the energy moves over across the Ajna to 17 and says, okay, so if that's the answer, they use their logical minds and have a need to organize the solution to their question into a workable concept that can then be expressed. So it's logical circuitry. So they're trying to shape a new opinion out of the answer. Does that make sense?
Well, I have this gate, so I'm kind of like trying to see the relevance in my own life, going back to
Mhm.
gate 47 there. But
Well,
so I
okay.
don't really see it, but maybe it's the
Okay. So
explanation.
your mind, so it's taken a doubt about the future up there in the
Mhm,
logical circuitry and formulated a potential solution. And then that's what this is doing. And now it feels pressured to express it as an opinion. Okay.
mhm,
Because then it connects through to the throat, in the gate 62, which
mhm,
helps take that opinion and translate it into language. So there's a lot of pattern recognition in this gate because it is logical. There's a lot about patterns there, which is what logical does, is it sees all these patterns and said this is what will happen based on what has happened
mhm,
before, right? um, and so these are people that are really good at recognizing patterns and how things have occurred.
mhm.
Yeah, they have a eye for seeing and understanding like frameworks and structures. They may not be able to really share what they understand instantly, but they, again, they can see it. They say it's the gate of the right eye. These are visually oriented people. And it's taking the world at a glance, seeing it as a collection of visual recognizable patterns. We were probably really good. Remember the match game? God, I used to love the
I
match game.
love playing the match game.
I can do this. Now, this gate 17 does not show up on my body graph because
Mhm,
it is activated on my body graph in Chiron. So Chiron influences the chart, but it
mhm.
doesn't activate the gates, but there is an
Right.
influence there for sure. And
Mhm,
that's where mine sits. And, this is, trying to take opinion as fact, and it's not a fact.
mhm.
It's an opinion.
I have it on my unconscious and conscious design.
Oh, you do?
Mhm.
Hmm.
I
Uh,
love patterns.
what's funny is
Mm.
that my dominant way of thinking is knowing. And here
Uh-huh.
I am talking about different ways of thinking and trying to explain what I know about it. And I don't really have the language about it. Like I can see it, feel it, I sense it in a way in my head, but I'm just like,
Uh-huh.
how do I explain what it is I know about this?
Mhm.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it?
Just a little bit.
So you have your opinion about things, about how things might be and how you want to influence things, and just kind of go through with that direction. Like you think what is happening, what's going to happen, and go. But challenge here is to learn to share thoughts about what you think is going to happen only when people ask for them, and not let doubt and suspicion keep you from seeing other potential outcomes. Like, don't get so fixed in one direction there. People with this energy can use the power of their minds to explore potentials and possibilities and inspire other people to think bigger and bolder. So there is a lot, like you said, in that circuitry, because it's looking forward. Logical circuitry is looking forward to possibility and what could happen. Whereas, the other side of the sensing is always looking back and saying, what did happen? What did it mean? And then the knowing is like, oh, here's something new. We don't know
Watch out.
where it came from. It's just here. So those are the gates of the Ajna Center, our mental awareness. And I know we had talked about doing the head and the mind together, or the head and the Ajna together. They do work together. Might have been easier, but boy, that'd be a whopper of an episode.
It'd be so long.
It's so long. We're going to do part twos, part threes, which is fine. But I think I love how you can, well, maybe that is my pattern seeing mind, but how you can see how the process starts and how it starts influencing what we do, because in that we're all going to tend to lean maybe more logical or more abstract, or you can be a blend of things, but you can see how it also can create anxiety, mental anxiety, if, like you said, you have a couple different dominant energies there, right, that are kind of always playing against each other in a way. And that's also why it's important to remember that this is not where you make your real decisions, because there's always going to be conflict inherent in there, in the mind, because it's just going to keep turning things over and reviewing and researching, going and going and going. It's not meant to be the boss. It's a research center.
I mean, between my head and my Ajna, I have a definition in every single circuit there.
Yeah.
In both parts.
Yeah. You got all three of those head gates. And so there will be that push and pull between you of like, and you probably do try to tend to want to make things more logical and just kind of know what they mean, because you have those hanging gates there. You feel like there's more of this, like, you feel like you're missing something. So you're kind of striving to be at times a lot more logical instead of leaning into, oh, it's like, it's cool. I'm not going to really have a reasoning behind this. I'm here to, let it just kind of drop in and see that more sensing side of your mental process. Yeah, I can definitely see why there's some push and pull there in your mental process of how it is you want to express what it is you're thinking. And so best thing to remember is that if you're defined, your natural state is your own fixed way of thinking, and the gifts that you carry are having more structure for processing and kind of computing information, and kind of more leaning into the dominant way that your mind wants to function, which said for you more dominant, your strong suit is that abstraction. If you're undefined, remember that there is no consistency there to your thought patterns. You're more fluid, adaptable, able to soak up new ideas and concepts, and without becoming too fixed on one thing or the other. But you really need to become more comfortable with uncertainty, because there's never really going to be definite certainty there, because they're undefined. And not to worry too much about understanding things, remembering things, or comparing yourself unfavorably to the defined minds around you, which there's more undefined minds out there than defined. I mean, it's pretty even, but there's a little bit more. And then, like I said, defined, don't overthink things.
Boom.
Don't let the thinking override your whole life. Just
don't get stuck in your head.
Don't get stuck in your head, right?
Yeah.
But that's where we all are. It's what we've all been taught to be, is in our head. But like I said earlier, through this exploration of this, and through the exploration of the whole human design thing is to show you that, oh, it's funny, I just awareness, first of all, of how things operate. But, we're now being able to understand how to harness the power of the mind for what it's good at,
Mhm.
and there's so much we don't, I can't, we, like I said, I keep saying this, but we're really going to push through and get through all these centers. But when we can talk more about, mindset's my jam, of how our minds work, and how we
Mhm.
were talking earlier about forming beliefs and how to change beliefs and how to really alter the course of your life, or how things are coming to you based on
Mhm.
using your mind in the way it's meant to be, a little more focused and
Yeah.
possibility oriented. So it's
One aspect of learning about human design that I really like is how it's a lot about sharing. Like it's about,
mm,
even when you have definition, it's more about sharing what that definition is than like
mm-hmm,
just harnessing it for yourself.
mm-hmm. Well, that's what we say, like knowing what your purpose is really is like where your strengths lie, is that because you cannot help but broadcast to those around you what your consistent defined things are in your chart. That's what it does. That's why it feels natural to us. We don't recognize it as our gifts because it's our natural state a lot of the
Mhm.
times, for the most part. And I mean, you can still find conditioning there, but you're much more um, likely to feel a little more solid in those parts of yourself. And like I said, yes, those parts of you are here for those that are undefined in those areas to learn about those themes, and vice versa.
Mhm.
So it's always this get, like you said, sharing. It's this give and take that is there between all of us. And when you can look at it in that big picture way of how beautiful it is that we all have all these pieces that are meant to connect and vibe off each other.
It's
Such a
making me feel
weird way of
warm
saying it.
inside.
Ooh. But that's also good to have the awareness of what is also happening, because it can also, if you don't understand it, can also be seen as, areas that we're weak where we're not,
Mhm.
it's just like, it just is. And I just love it. And I'm glad you see it like that.
Mhm.
Because it's what it is. It's what it is. All right. Well, we'll wrap up today. I think we've yammered on enough. I always say that, but I mean it. So it's been fun exploring how our minds want to work.
Mhm.
And yeah, so we appreciate everybody listening today. And we're gonna be coming back at you the next time with some throat center.
With the last center, right? The last
Yeah,
one.
which
It's
I
a
think that might be
doozy.
two. I think we talked about this might be a two-parter. Yeah, I think we
There's
might
so
have to
many
do that.
gates.
Did we do a
There's
two-parter
11.
episode on another one? We did another one.
Yeah,
Was
on
it the
something.
I can't remember. We
I
should be
know we
able to
did a
remember.
two-parter.
Yeah, we did. I know. Well, it's all right. We'll do another one. It'll be fun because yeah, there's it's like 11 gates, I think.
Yes, I just counted it. It's 11.
11 gates in the throat. But it's a pretty important center. They all are.
Hmm.
I mean, honestly. Have we gotten to one yet? This is what we could do without that.
Well, this one you don't really need. It's like your pancreas. Is that the organ you can live without? No. No, what's the gallbladder? I don't know. It's falling apart.
Technically,
It's falling apart.
technically they say you can live without your physical spleen.
Yeah. Oh, spleen.
But I think you're born with one. I think it's kind of important. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
live without it, but anyways.
My
I was
analogy
doing
fell apart.
so good at wrapping up this
I'm
episode and
sorry
they
that
just
was so
totally
long.
derailed it.
I was
All right.
sorry. Say goodbye.
For reals this time. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to let everybody go. Have a good night. Haley, I love you. And bye.
I love you too. Bye.
Bye. You made it all the way to the end of today's episode, so you must have liked what you heard. If you did, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode, and perhaps leave us a good review. And if you know someone who wants to dig into all things human design with us, make sure you share the Human Design Hive podcast with them. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for listening.